Welcome to this special Talk Tickers briefing. Today, we're digging into a massive story, the escalating trade crisis between the United States and Canada. What started as a simple policy shift in Ottawa has just exploded into this huge diplomatic and economic showdown. So let's break down exactly how we got to this point. Okay, let's just get right to it. This is the bombshell that has absolutely rocked the markets. We're talking about a direct threat from President Trump to slap a crippling 100% tariff on all Canadian goods. And look, this isn't just some negotiating tactic. No, this is a direct, pointed response to Canada's new trade deal with China. So yeah, we're talking about a 100% threat. And believe me, this isn't just talk. It's a potential economic earthquake. It really makes you stop and ask, how on earth did we get here? To really get a grip on how huge this threat is, we've got to rewind a bit and look at the very foundation this relationship was built on. You see, for decades, the US and Canadian economies weren't just partners, they were practically fused at the hip. They built this continental economic fortress, a bloc that was, frankly, the envy of the entire world. And this timeline really lays it all out. You've got this long history of super deep integration, right? It all starts back in 1994 with NAFTA, which then gets replaced by the USMCA in 2020. The whole point of these deals was to create this global powerhouse built on one simple idea, making trade almost completely frictionless. But then you see the cracks starting to appear. And that partnership, it's all built on these massive, incredibly integrated supply chains. Just think about this for a second. Over 70% of everything Canada sells to the rest of the world goes straight to the United States. And when you look at really crucial sectors like energy and cars, the two countries basically operate as one single market. It's that intertwined. But now, this historic relationship is facing its biggest test ever. And what triggered it? A really bold, super high-stakes strategic shift coming out of Ottawa. And we're not just talking about one trade deal here. No, this is a fundamental, ground-up change in how Canada sees its place in the world. So what's the core idea here? Well, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney basically believes the old alliances are just broken. From his perspective, relying on an unpredictable U.S. and its, on-again, off-again tariffs has become a massive liability. So, in his view, Canada has no choice but to forge its own path. And this is the deal that's at the very heart of this crisis. It's a pretty straightforward trade-off, really. Canada agrees to let in a certain number of Chinese electric vehicles at a low tariff. And what do they get in return? Well, Beijing is slashing its absolutely massive 85% tariff on Canadian canola. That's a huge potential win for Canada's farmers. So what you're seeing here is a tale of two completely different strategies. This pivot creates a whole new reality. We're shifting away from that old model, that unified fortress North America, and moving towards what's being called the Carney pivot. This is where Canada is deliberately breaking away because they see diversification not as just a choice, but as absolutely essential for their survival. Okay, so that pivot is what triggered the 100% tariff threat from Washington, which, by the way, sees this as a national security issue. And now we get to the fallout. A really important report from the research institute Cyrano has run the numbers, and they show just how devastating this could be for Canada. Get ready for this number. The Cyrano model predicts that a full-blown trade war, we're talking U.S. tariffs and Canadian retaliation, could cause a staggering 4.2% decline in Canada's real GDP. That is a massive hit to an entire country's economy. And, a number like 4.2% GDP can sound a little abstract. So let's put it in human terms. That loss corresponds to the potential destruction of around 700,000 Canadian jobs. We're talking about jobs across tons of different sectors. It's a huge number. And if you look at the breakdown, it's a really grim calculation. The U.S. tariffs by themselves, they're bad enough. They're projected to cause a 3.2% drop in GDP. But if Canada retaliates, that actually makes it worse for them, deepening the hit to 4.2%. It's what analysts are calling a dangerous doom loop, where each action makes the problem worse. But make no mistake, this isn't a one-way street. The U.S. wouldn't get off scot-free. American consumers would absolutely feel the pain through higher prices on everything from lumber to cars. And those highly integrated supply chains we talked about? Total chaos. In fact, the Wall Street Journal has called this potentially the dumbest trade war in history. It would hit the wallets of everyday Americans, for sure. So, with the economic stakes being this high, it's no surprise that the fallout is spreading. It's not just about trade anymore, now it's bleeding into the world of national security and geopolitics. And Washington is already making moves to isolate Ottawa on the world stage. Just look at this Golden Dome missile defense project. By making a deal directly with Denmark over Greenland, the US is strategically bypassing Canada. It's like they're flanking them in the Arctic. It's a clear power move, a direct message in response to that China pivot, and it really puts a dent in the old NORAD partnership. So what happens right now? Well, the immediate outlook is volatile, to say the least. The first step we're expecting is for President Trump to launch a formal Section 232 national security investigation. Now, why does that matter? Because that investigation gives him the legal justification he needs to impose these tariffs without needing a vote from Congress. And you can bet the financial markets are watching. They're already bracing for some extreme volatility in the US to Canadian dollar exchange rate and some major sell-offs in Canadian stock. And all of this leaves us with a huge, critical question. After all these decades of working together, of building this unparalleled partnership, are we just watching a temporary spat? Or is this the permanent fracture of the world's largest trading relationship? Is this the new normal?
This is not financial advice.